Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus and see how this particular phone holds up in 2025. Now, this is a pretty old Samsung phone as of this point, as you can probably imagine. It's not really like the latest and greatest anymore. It's definitely going to start showing its age. So that is kind of one of the biggest things to keep in mind here, because if you are planning on going through and picking up some sort of a device, this thing is definitely without a doubt going to show its age, but it's not the biggest deal in the world, and you're still probably going to be getting a really decent experience when it comes down to this type of device when it comes down to it. So first of all, if you do want to go ahead and pick up some phones that I would recommend buying this year, links will be down in the description below. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus. This particular phone originally came out back in 2018, so it's approaching like 7 years old this year, which is crazy. Like going through and getting a device that's 7 years old as of this point, it is pretty insane. There are some phones nowadays that are going to be supported for like those many years. So if you pick up a Galaxy S25 or you pick up an iPhone 16 Pro, those phones probably will end up lasting you for like 7 years. Unfortunately, this is not one of those devices that's going to be supported at that length. So that right there is going to be one of those big things to keep in mind there from that particular perspective as well. Now, from a screen standpoint, this thing's giving you a 6.2-inch Super AMOLED display. So it's a pretty good looking panel, 1440p. Doesn't really look that bad. And if you are going to go through and pick up a phone, I do think this is like a pretty decent option, right? The display itself is not terrible. Now, it is a fairly low brightness, and it's not a 120 hertz display, it's just 60 hertz. And you are getting pretty thick bezels on the top and bottom, but it's not an ugly panel. And I actually do think if you are going to go through and like pick up some sort of a device, this thing does actually do a pretty decent job at giving you like an okay type of experience when it kind of comes down to it from that side. So I would probably tell you from that particular situation, this thing is probably going to be giving you a pretty good experience when it comes down to it from that side. So it's not terrible, but it gets the job done. On the bottom, you're getting a USB Type-C port, a headphone jack, and a microSD card slot. That right there is some really insane type of I/O to have inside of a device. Like that right there could be a really, really big reason why you'd want to go through and pick up something like a Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus. Like the fact that you have that type of capability is actually super insane. It's very, very rare for a phone to get you a USB Type-C port and like a microSD card slot. But to have a USB-C port, headphone jack, and a microSD card, it's insane. And that is probably one of the most legendary things going on for this type of phone. Now, it's giving you this solid glass back on the backside, which is always nice. And it's giving you a dual camera setup on the backside as well. So going through and giving you this like dual camera setup is actually really, really cool. And I will probably tell you that in and of itself is a really nice thing. You're still getting things like wireless charging inside of this phone and a fingerprint sensor in the back as well. So I would probably tell you from that side, this phone actually does a pretty decent job at kind of holding up decently well from that particular perspective. Like I actually do think if you are going to go through and if you're going to get this type of phone, the outside of this phone actually doesn't hold up that badly. But I will say from a price tag standpoint, when you're looking at it, it can be kind of convincing. This phone, I guess on Amazon is about $230, but you can get it for way cheaper than that. Like you can get this phone for significantly cheaper than that, price tag. And I do think this in and of itself is one of those big things to keep in mind here too. Because if you're trying to get a phone, this thing is not really going to cost, it's not going to cost the most amount of money, but it's still not a good priced phone in my personal opinion, because I think there are better options out there for you that may not cost as much, as this particular device costs like. When it comes down to the cameras, this phone is essentially giving you this dual camera setup on the backside, a 12 megapixel wide and then a 12 megapixel telephoto lens, but it's also giving you this dual camera setup on the front side as well. It's giving you this 8 megapixel wide and 2 megapixel iris scanner camera. So this is actually pretty insane and pretty cool in and of itself. It's giving you 4K at 60 on the backside, which is actually really, really cool. And it's giving you 1440p on the front. Now, I personally like having 4K at 60 on the front and the back. Unfortunately, this phone is not going to be giving us that type of capability, but it still is a really nice thing to basically be able to sit there and just be able to get this type of experience. And I will tell you from that side, that is kind of a nice thing going on for this type of device when it comes down to it. Again, it's not like the most perfect situation in the world, but it's still a good enough camera. There's still quite a few features built in as well. But with that being said, I would definitely, think about getting another phone, because this type of camera is lacking 4K at 60 on the front. It doesn't even give you 8K capability on the back, where, as the phones in the last 5 years from Samsung have been giving you that type of capability. So it's just one of those minor things to keep in mind there too. When it comes down to software longevity though, this is the number one reason and the main reason why I would not recommend any single person to go through and buy something like a Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus. This phone is fairly outdated by the time you buy it. So if you're going to go through and if you're going to pick up this phone, this is already going to be one of those phones that's going to be giving you an outdated type of experience by the time you go ahead and pick it up. So what would even be the point of going through and buying this type of phone if you're already going to be lacking software updates and software experiences by the time you go through and actually upgrade? So that's basically the main, disadvantage here of buying this type of phone, because you're going to be able to, you can buy a phone that's still supported with software, and it's not going to be that much more expensive than this thing. In fact, if it's like $230 on Amazon right now, there's phones that are cheaper than this that are still supported with software on Amazon. So I would definitely recommend looking elsewhere. I really don't think I'd recommend buying this phone from a software longevity perspective. You're going to be missing out on like security updates and all those other things too. Now, on top of that, another very big thing to keep in mind here too is that within the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus, you're also going to be giving you, a 3,500 milliamp-hour battery. So that right there is also going to be another big thing to keep in mind here too, because with something like an S9 Plus, this type of device really is not going to be giving you that great of an experience from battery life anymore. At one point it was actually decent, but nowadays not so much the case, and that is going to be another one of those issues that you might end up experiencing from this particular situation as well. And finally, when it comes down to the performance, this phone is essentially going to be giving you that Qualcomm Snapdragon 845 chipset inside with 4 gigs of RAM. So the base models were 4, the top models were 6. I believe mine actually has 4, I believe. So this right there is going to be another one of those situations to kind of think about. Because if you're wanting the phone that's going to be giving you an overall better experience here, you're going to have to think that a phone like the Samsung Galaxy, S9 Plus, it's really not going to be giving you that great of an experience, right? That's kind of the biggest issue that we're running into here. There are way better devices to go and buy rather than this thing, especially from a performance perspective. There are way better options. So for me personally, I think that's kind of one of the big things to keep in mind here. If you're wanting the phone that's going to be giving you a longer lasting supported phone, well, definitely something like a Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus is not going to be the one for you, and it's not going to be that great of a performing device either. So overall, to kind of sum up this whole entire video, what I can definitely tell you, in my personal opinion, I really don't think this is a phone I would recommend anyone to buy. The S9 Plus was great when it first came out, but it genuinely just doesn't make any sense to go and buy it anymore. I think there's way better devices to go and buy rather than this thing. I think a phone like a Samsung Galaxy S23 or Galaxy S23 Plus are no-brainers. Those are really, really good phones to buy. I think a phone like a Galaxy S even 22 Plus is probably okay. Definitely if you can go above those phones, I'd recommend it, but I really don't think it makes any sense to go and buy these types of phones when it comes down to it. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out, till then.